My parents missed my big day, so I took a stand instead. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. I scanned the front row one last time, and my stomach dropped. 2 empty seats staring back at me. The auditorium lights made everything feel washed out and too loud. People were standing, clapping, turning to hug their parents. I stood there in my cap and gown, palms sweating inside the sleeves, pretending I wasn't counting every second. I'm David, 28, the responsible one. The one who pays bills on time, returns calls, shows up early. For 4 years I worked warehouse shifts and took night classes so I could finish my nursing degree. Today was my pinning ceremony. My name would be called, my instructor would place the pin on my collar, and my family would see, finally, that I wasn't just background noise. My mom, Diane, had promised she'd be there no matter what. My dad, Mark, had said he'd take off work because this is a big deal. I even texted them the seat numbers twice, like a kid reminding a babysitter. Brooke, my little sister, 24, the golden child, had RSVP'd, maybe, which in our family meant only if there are photos. She wasn't the one I was watching for anyway. I was watching for the 2 people who had spent my whole life acting like my wins were inconvenient. Aunt Tessa sat beside those empty chairs, jaw tight, purse in her lap, like she was holding herself down. Maybe they're parking, she whispered. I checked my phone again. No new texts, no calls. Just my last message sitting there with the little delivered underneath it. Outside, the rain that had threatened all morning finally started, tapping the roof like it was keeping time. The dean started reading names. I should have been thrilled. Instead, I felt my face go hot with the kind of shame that makes you smile harder. All I could think was, what would you do if the people who taught you loyalty never practiced it? When my row stood to line up, Tessa grabbed my hand. Whatever happens, she said, don't let them rewrite this day. My name echoed through the speakers, and my legs moved on autopilot. Then I looked up and saw who was walking in. If you grew up in our house, you learned quickly which kid mattered more. When I was 13, I made the honor roll and taped the certificate to the fridge. Mom smiled, said, "That's nice, honey," and 2 days later it was gone, replaced by a glossy photo of Brooke in a sparkly dance costume. Dad didn't even pretend. "Grades are what you're supposed to do," he told me. "Brooke has talent." By 16, I was the built-in adult. I cooked pasta while Mom rehearsed how to sound supportive on the phone with her friends. I drove Brooke to rehearsals in Dad's SUV because he needed it for work. When I asked why nobody ever came to my basketball games, Mom would say, "Sweetheart, you know your father hates crowds." Like that settled it. Our family lived like a brochure in the suburbs, trimmed hedges, matching holiday sweaters, a "bless this home" sign that Mom loved for pictures. Online, Mom was all caps about family first, posting Brooke's milestones with hashtags and heart emojis. When I got my acceptance letter to nursing school, she texted congrats and then asked if I could help Brooke with her resume. Brooke learned the system early. She could cry on command, and my parents folded like lawn chairs. One time she forgot a school project the night before it was due. Dad left my birthday dinner, mid-candle, because Brooke had a panic attack. I sat there with melting wax and a waiter asking if we wanted dessert, and Mom whispered, "Don't make this about you." The most recent example was 3 months before graduation. I'd finally landed a hospital externship, unpaid but competitive, and I needed a ride to the orientation because my car's transmission was dying. Mom had promised. "Put it on the calendar," she said. I did. I even sent a reminder. That morning, Brooke called saying her boyfriend might break up with her. Mom drove to Brooke's apartment without blinking. Dad texted me, "Uber. Practical solution." I showed up to the hospital alone, wearing borrowed scrubs, trying not to feel pathetic for still wanting them. That was the pattern. I was reliable, so I was optional. And that was before Mom sent me the screenshot. The screenshot Mom sent wasn't dramatic. It was worse because it looked sincere. It was her phone calendar, a neat blue block labeled David Pinning Ceremony, with 2 little heart emojis. Under it she'd typed, "Leave by 3:30. Sit front row. Take pictures." She added, "See? I'm planning. I'm not missing this." For once, it felt like someone was holding my life with both hands instead of fingertips. Over the next few weeks, Mom did the things I'd always wanted in tiny, almost embarrassing doses. She asked what time the doors opened. She texted me links to boutonnieres, even though nursing pins don't require flowers. Humor me, she said. It'll look nice in photos. One night, she FaceTimed me from her closet, holding 2 ties up to the camera like a teenager. Navy or burgundy? She asked. Your eyes will pop with navy. Then, quieter, she said, I know I haven't always showed up right. Let me show up now. Dad even called. Actually called, not a text. I told my boss I'm out early, he said, like he was announcing a sacrifice. We'll do dinner after. Somewhere decent. Like, with a reservation? I joked, trying to keep it light. Don't push it, he said, but I heard the ghost of a laugh. Then he added, You did something hard, kid. We'll be there. Brooke chimed in on the family group chat, which was mostly Mom sending inspirational quotes. Proud of you, big bro, she wrote. I'll try to make it. Mom replied instantly. You will make it. Family supports family. I stared at that line for a long time. It felt like a promise and a warning at the same time. Aunt Tessa didn't buy it. When I told her, she snorted. Your mother loves a stage, she said. Just make sure you're the main event. Why can't you let me be happy? I asked her. I can, she said. I just don't want you blindsided. Still, I let myself believe. I ironed my gown. I polished my shoes. I practiced saying thank you without my voice shaking. The night before the ceremony, Dad sent one message that felt off. The day of the ceremony, I woke up before my alarm like my body didn't trust me to be calm. I showered twice. I shaved so carefully my face stung. In my tiny apartment, the cap and gown hung from the closet door, black fabric swallowing the room. I kept touching the nursing pin in its little box, like it might disappear if I stopped. Aunt Tessa pulled up at noon in her old Corolla, blasting classic rock. Look at you, she said when I got in, eyes soft for half a second before she corrected herself. Don't cry. You'll ruin my eyeliner. I'm not going to cry. I lied. On the drive, she handed me a bottle of water and a granola bar like I was 8. Eat, she ordered. Your family's drama doesn't get to make you faint on stage. We got to the campus early because Tessa believed in arriving like we belonged there. Families were already gathering outside the auditorium, snapping photos in the spring sun. Moms adjusted collars. Dads fussed with tassels. People had bouquets, balloons, posters with glittery letters. A classmate nudged me and pointed to her parents waving a giant sign. Where's your crew? She asked. On their way. I said automatically, like saying it made it true. I kept checking my phone. 12:41, Mom, leaving soon. So excited. 1:06, Dad. Traffic might be bad. We're fine. At 2:10, Mom sent, take a selfie for me, with 3 exclamation points. I stared at it, then took one in the bathroom mirror, forced smiling, and sent it back. She left it on red. Brooke didn't text at all. Inside, I found our seats, front row, left side, exactly where Mom insisted they should be for the best angle. I set my program on one chair and Mom's favorite mint gum on the other, like a weird offering to the universe. What are you doing? Tessa asked. Making it easy for them, I said, and hated how small my voice sounded. She leaned closer. They don't deserve you doing magic tricks to earn basic love. Please, I muttered. Just today? When the music started and we filed into our rows, I sent one last text. We're about to begin. I saved your seats. The message stayed undelivered. When the clock hit 3:30, my mom's location stopped moving. The ceremony moved in slow motion, like my brain was buffering. Names were called, people stood, families hooped. Every few minutes I flicked my eyes to the front row. The 2 empty seats looked louder than the applause. Tessa sat upright, hands folded, the picture of restraint, like she was afraid if she moved she'd start a fire. When it was almost my turn, my instructor, Ms. Alvarez, leaned in. Deep breath, David, she whispered. You earned this. I nodded, because if I opened my mouth I'd make an embarrassing sound. Then I heard it. David Morales. My feet carried me up the steps. The stage lights hit my face, hot and blinding. I could see the crowd as a blur. Faces, phones held up, parents with arms around shoulders. For a split second, I imagined Mom and Dad rushing in late, apologizing, waving. I imagined looking down and seeing them smiling, proud, like normal people. But when I looked, the seats were still empty. Ms. Alvarez pinned the little silver badge to my collar. Welcome, she said, soft enough that only I heard. Thank you, I managed. The audience clapped. I smiled because the camera was probably on me and Mom cared about things like that. My cheeks shook. My eyes burned. I kept thinking, you don't cry here. You don't give them that. As I turned to walk across the stage, I heard someone shout my name. David. It sounded like Tessa, sharp, protective. I glanced toward the front row again, expecting maybe anything. Nothing. Just the 2 seats and the program I'd placed like a dumb little invitation. I walked off stage and down the aisle with my classmates. People reached out to high-five me. Someone said, "Your parents must be so proud." I laughed, a small broken sound, and answered, "Yeah, totally." When the last name was called, everyone stood for photos. Families flooded the aisles. I stayed near the wall, holding my pinning certificate like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Tessa pressed her phone into my hand. "Call them," she said. "Now?" As I stepped off stage, my phone buzzed with one new voicemail. The voicemail was from my mom. I hit play with my thumb trembling. "Hi, sweetheart," Diane said, voice too bright, like she was smiling for an audience. "Call me when you can. Everything's fine. We love you." That was it. "No, I'm sorry. No, we're stuck." Just a neat little emotional bandage slapped over an open wound. I called her back immediately. Straight to voicemail. I called Dad. It rang twice, then stopped. Not voicemail, just stopped, like he rejected it. I stared at the screen until it went dark again. My chest felt hollow. A classmate's mom, someone I barely knew, walked up holding her phone out. "Do you want me to take a picture of you with your parents?" she asked, sweet and clueless. My throat tightened. I opened my mouth and nothing came out. Tessa stepped in like a shield. "His parents couldn't make it," she said, tone polite but edged. "We'll do a photo. Thanks." The woman's smile faltered. "Oh, well, congratulations, honey." As she walked away, the humiliation hit me like nausea. Not because strangers knew, but because I had built this whole day around 2 people who clearly didn't. Outside, rain had turned into a steady pour. People huddled under umbrellas taking photos anyway, laughing, shaking water out of hair. I stood under the awning with Tessa, watching families pile into SUVs. "Maybe they got in an accident," I said, because my brain was still bargaining. Tessa's eyes narrowed. "If your mother's hair got wet, she'd call the governor," she muttered. I called again. Nothing. Finally, at 5:12, Mom texted, "So sorry. Emergency. We'll explain. Please don't be mad." I typed back, "Where are you?" Then deleted it, then typed it again, then added, "Are you okay?" Like I was still responsible for their feelings. Dad texted 10 minutes later. "Not a good time. Talk later." Not a good time. Like my pinning ceremony was a spam call. Tessa took my elbow. "We're going," she said. "You need food, sleep, and a plan." On the drive home, the wipers squeaked like a metronome. I stared out the window and replayed every moment I'd smiled at empty air. At 9:47 p.m., Mom finally called, and I put it on speaker. "David," she began, already sighing, "don't start." Dad's excuse sounded perfect, until Tessa noticed the timestamp. Mom launched into her explanation like she'd rehearsed it in front of a mirror. "Brooke had a situation," Diane said. "She was in tears, David. She was hyperventilating. We couldn't leave her like that." Dad's voice followed, flat and practical. "We had to prioritize safety. Ceremony versus medical emergency." I sat on my couch still wearing the pin, listening to them talk like I was a meeting they wanted to end. Tessa sat at my kitchen table, arms crossed. "What situation?" I asked. Mom hesitated. She had a panic attack. In her car. She called me, and I could hear her gasping. Dad added, "Then the car wouldn't start. We were stuck with her." "Okay," I said, because my brain was still bargaining. "So why didn't you call me?" Mom went soft, the wounded tone. "We didn't want to distract you on your big day." My laugh came out sharp. "You didn't want to distract me from noticing you weren't there?" Dad sighed. "David, don't be dramatic. Things happen." I swallowed. "Where were you?" "Exactly." "At Brooks," Mom said quickly. "Then we took her to get checked out." Tessa mouthed, "Ask about the voicemail." "You left a voicemail at 4, I said. "Yes," Mom replied. "From the waiting room. It was loud. I didn't want to talk long." "But you said you were stuck with her," I pressed. "And Dad said you were prioritizing safety. Were you driving? Were you in a waiting room?" Dad cut in. "You don't need a minute-by-minute report." Mom's voice sharpened. "Why are you interrogating us? You got your ceremony. You graduated. Isn't that what matters?" There it was, the move. Make the event the problem, not the choice. Then Tessa slid her phone across my coffee table and pointed at one tiny detail. Mom's voicemail file. Recorded, 4:02 p.m. Length, 11 seconds. No background noise. No hospital announcements. Just Mom's voice, crisp as if she'd stepped into a quiet hallway. Waiting room, huh? Tessa murmured. My stomach tightened. Mom, I said, are you lying to me? There was a pause so long I could hear Dad breathing. Then Tessa forwarded me the photo she'd been afraid to mention. The photo Tessa forwarded wasn't blurry or questionable. It was clean, bright, and cruel. Aunt Tessa had been scrolling Instagram while I was on stage, because she knew my parents, and she couldn't stand the silence. At 4:06 p.m., Brooke posted an Instagram story. The screenshot showed the three of them in front of a white flower wall, all dressed up, hair perfect, faces angled toward the camera like they were auditioning for a family commercial. Top right corner, 3:41 p.m. Geotag, Riverside Loft. I knew Riverside Loft. It was a downtown event space people rented for engagement parties and brand launches. Not a hospital, not a roadside emergency. A place with valet parking and ring lights. In the corner of the story, you could see a sliver of a neon sign that read Brooke and CO. I actually zoomed in, like maybe my eyes were lying. They were there, I said, voice flat. Tessa nodded once. I didn't want to ruin your ceremony by showing you then, she said. But I wasn't going to let them gaslight you tonight. I opened the family group chat. My last text, we're about to begin, sat there untouched. No heart. No on my way. Nothing. Then I opened Mom's messages. At 2:10 p.m. She asked for a selfie. At 2:11 p.m. I sent it. At 2:12 p.m. she left it on red. At 3:38 p.m., while I was sitting in my row sweating through my gown, Mom had been posing in front of flowers for Brooke's camera. I clicked Brooke's profile. Another post went up at 5:30 p.m. A carousel of photos from launch day, including one with Mom holding Brooke's chin like she was 5 and Dad standing behind them, smiling like a man who hadn't rejected a single call. The comments were full of people saying, obsessed, and your family is goals. Mom had even commented, so proud of our girl. I felt something inside me snap. Not loud, not dramatic, just final. What would you do? Tessa asked quietly. If your parents only showed up for the pictures? I stared at Brooke's post until my eyes hurt. The timestamp and geotag were undeniable. The evidence wasn't a theory, it was pixels. The caption under Brooke's post made my hands start shaking. Brooke's caption was surgical, big day for my dream. Thanks to my mom and dad for always choosing me. Always choosing me. She didn't mean it as a confession. She meant it as a flex. I kept scrolling until I found the photo that made my throat close. Brooke standing between my parents, holding a pair of oversized scissors like she'd cut a ribbon earlier. Behind them was a banner with her logo and a line in smaller print, Investor Preview. That word, investor, explained everything about Mom's hair and Dad's suddenly available schedule. I called Brooke. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. Mom had turned off her read receipts after my last message, like that would erase it. Dad didn't text again. They were all quiet in the same way people get quiet when they know they're guilty. Tessa poured coffee like it was a courtroom. This wasn't about you, she said. It was about what made them look good. What do you mean? I asked, even though I knew. She tapped Brooke's post. Your mother lives for the perfect family picture. Your father lives for the idea that everything is an investment. Brooke gave them both a stage. I remembered something from 2 weeks earlier. Brooke calling me, voice sweet for once. Hey, can you co-sign my studio lease? She'd asked. It's just paperwork. I'll pay it. I'd said no. Not because I hated her, but because I'd spent years cleaning up her messes and I was tired of risking my credit for her fresh starts. Brooke's sweetness disappeared instantly. Wow, she'd snapped. So you don't support family. An hour later, Mom called me, furious. Why are you being selfish? She demanded. Dad added, you don't understand leverage. Now I wondered if today was punishment as much as preference. At 11:18 p.m., my phone lit up with a new text from Mom. Brooke needed us. Don't make this uglier. Uglier. Like my feelings were a stain on their outfit. I opened my notes app and started writing everything down. Dates, times, screenshots, every word. Not to be petty, because I was done being told my memory was wrong. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I wanted to beg, but I didn't. I just waited for the one person who couldn't hide behind practical. Brooke finally called me back, and she wasn't even pretending. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house with Tessa following in her Corolla like a backup witness. My hands shook on the steering wheel. I kept rehearsing different versions of the conversation, calm, angry, careful, and none of them felt big enough for what they'd done. Dad opened the door before I knocked, like he'd been watching through the peephole. "David," he said, voice neutral. "Come in." Mom was in the kitchen in a cream sweater, hair curled, makeup done. It was 9 a.m. She looked ready for photos again. She didn't look like someone who'd spent yesterday in a hospital waiting room. "You didn't come," I said, skipping hello because my body couldn't hold it. Mom's eyes filled instantly. "Sweetheart." "No," I cut in. "Don't." I saw the posts. Riverside Loft. 3:41 p.m. Dad's jaw tightened. "We went to Brooke's investor preview." He admitted, like he was admitting he bought the wrong milk. "It was important. More important than my graduation." My voice cracked on the last word, and I hated myself for giving them that. Mom pressed a hand to her chest. "It wasn't like that," she said. "We thought we could do both. And then Brooke." "Brooke what?" I asked. "Threatened you? Cried? Told you she'd die if you left?" Mom flinched. "She needed us, David." "I needed you," I said, quieter. "Once." Dad stepped closer, palms out, as if he was managing a situation at work. "You're an adult. You don't need an audience to achieve something. Brooke's business could change her life. So could my job," I said. "I'm going to be taking care of people in crisis. I just wanted my parents in the front row." Mom reached for my hand. "We're proud of you. We can take pictures today. We'll go to dinner. We'll make it right." It was the familiar bargain. Replace presence with performance. Rewrite yesterday as a scheduling error, not a choice. For a second, I felt the old reflex kick in. Take the scraps, say thank you, keep the peace. Then Tessa walked in behind me and set her phone on the counter like evidence. "He didn't ask for pictures," she said. "He asked for you." Dad's eyes flicked to her, annoyed. He leaned in toward me, voice low, and my stomach dropped. Dad leaned in and said a sentence I'll never forget. Dad's sentence was calm, which somehow made it worse. "If you make a scene about this," he said, "you'll embarrass your mother. Not you'll hurt us. Not we're sorry. Just protect Mom's image." Mom's eyes flicked to Dad, then back to me, and she nodded like he'd said something wise. "We're a family," she whispered. "We handle things privately." I left without screaming. That was my old skill. Swallow it. Walk away. Don't be messy where anyone can see. By that afternoon, I realized they weren't just trying to avoid guilt. They were trying to control the story. My cousin Jenna texted me. "Hey, are you okay? Aunt Diane says you had a breakdown." I stared at the message until the words blurred. What did she say? I typed. Jenna sent screenshots from a group chat I wasn't in. Mom had written, "David is under a lot of stress. He lashed out at us. We're worried about him." Then a heart emoji. Then, "Please don't mention the ceremony. He's sensitive right now." Sensitive. Like I was a toddler who cried because my sandwich was cut wrong. Dad followed up in the chat, apparently, with, "We did everything we could. He's choosing anger." And Brooke, of course, added, "He's always jealous of me. Don't feed it." Within hours, people were checking on me as if I'd fallen apart, not as if I'd been abandoned. That was the genius of it. They made my reaction the scandal so their choice could stay invisible. Mom even posted on Facebook a photo of Brooke at Riverside Loft with a caption about supporting our kids through every season. Like my empty front row seats were a myth. Tessa came over that night with takeout and the kind of silence that meant she was holding herself back. "They're doing what they always do," she said finally. "They're making you the problem." "I didn't even post anything," I said. "I didn't tell anyone." "That's why they're moving fast," she replied. "If they label you unstable, your receipts look like revenge." A notification popped up on my phone. Brooke went live. In the preview, I saw my mom leaning into the camera, smiling like nothing happened. "What would you do?" Tessa asked, "if they tried to steal your truth in real time?" Before I could answer, her phone buzzed, and her face went completely blank. The text on Tessa's phone was from Mom. "Tell David to stop. People are asking questions." Tessa showed it to me like a dare. "You want private?" she said. "They already made it public." I didn't want to burn the whole thing down. I just wanted the truth to exist somewhere besides my throat. So I did something I'd never done in my life. I wrote a statement instead of an apology. On Facebook and Instagram, I posted one photo, me in my cap and gown, standing outside the auditorium under the rain, pin visible on my collar. No dramatic filters. No sad music. Just the picture. Then I wrote, "Yesterday was my nursing pinning ceremony. My parents told me they'd be there. They didn't come. Later I learned they attended my sister's investor preview at Riverside Loft during the ceremony. I'm not asking anyone to pick sides. I'm setting boundaries and taking space. Please don't harass my family." Under it, I added 3 receipts in the comments. Brooke's story screenshot with 3:41 p.m. and the geotag, Mom's voicemail timestamp for 02 p.m., and my last unanswered text. We're about to begin. That was it. No insults. No name-calling. No evil mother monologue. Just dates and reality. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone, but once it was up, I felt air, like I'd been holding my breath for 28 years. Then I emailed my parents because I wanted the boundary in writing, not an emotion. I won't discuss this with yelling or guilt. I'm taking 90 days of no contact. Don't come to my apartment. Don't send relatives to check on me. If you want a relationship after that, we can do it with a therapist present. Tessa watched me hit send. That, she said, voice low, is what a stand looks like. I expected immediate silence. Instead, my phone lit up like a slot machine. People commented things like, "Proud of you," and "I'm so sorry," and "Call me if you need anything." Jenna messaged, "Thank you for clarifying. I knew something was off." Brooke went live again, but now the comments were different. I didn't watch. I didn't want the adrenaline. I wanted my spine. What would you do if telling the truth made your own mother furious? Within 10 minutes, Mom's friend from church left me a voicemail. The voicemail was syrupy, the way adults sound when they're about to scold you politely. "David, this is Marlene from First Community," Mom's friend said. "Your mother is heartbroken. We all make mistakes. Maybe delete the post and meet your parents halfway, okay?" Meet them halfway. Like I had left early and they had shown up late. Dad didn't use church friends. Dad used leverage. At 2:17 p.m., he emailed me from his work address. Subject line, "Unacceptable." He wrote, "Remove the post. You are damaging reputations. Hospitals don't like drama. If you keep this up, I'll contact your program director and advise them you're unstable." Unstable. The same word they'd planted in the family chat. Mom texted next, "People are messaging me. I can't breathe. How could you do this to me?" Brooke went straight for the throat. "Congrats. You ruined my investor day. You're pathetic. You always need attention." Then, 3 messages later, "Delete it or you're dead to me." I stared at the screen and felt something weirdly calm settle in. They weren't sorry. They were inconvenienced. Tessa came over with a legal pad like she was my public defender. "Save everything," she said. "Screenshots. Voicemails. Emails. What if Dad actually calls my school?" I asked. "Then you show them facts," she replied. "And you keep your tone clean." The consequences hit that night. Dad texted, "Return the Camry tomorrow. It's in my name." My stomach dropped. The car was the one practical thing Dad had ever helped me with. An old Camry he'd put in his name for the insurance discount. I paid the gas, the maintenance, the monthly payments. But legally, it wasn't mine. "You can't do that," I typed, then deleted it. Of course he could. That was the point. I had an early shift orientation at the hospital in 2 days. Public transit would take 90 minutes each way. Uber would crush my savings. Dad knew that. He loved practical solutions when they hurt me. Mom called at midnight. I didn't answer. I didn't delete the post. I didn't apologize. I just set my alarm and tried to sleep with my phone face down so I wouldn't see their names. At 6 a.m., a tow truck backed into my parking lot. The tow truck wasn't there to scare me. It was there to take the car. I stood in my parking lot in sweatpants, keys in my hand, watching a stranger hook up the Camry while my neighbors pretended not to look. Dad didn't even show up. He didn't need to. Power works best when it's impersonal. I took the bus to my hospital orientation with my badge in my pocket and my pride bruised but intact. On day 2, a coworker named Sam noticed me sprinting from the stop and asked, "You okay, man?" I almost said the old answer, "Yeah, fine," but I was tired. "Family stuff," I admitted. He nodded like he understood more than I'd said. "My mom missed my wedding," he replied. "You're not crazy for caring." That sentence did more for me than any guilt trip ever had. I started therapy the next week. The therapist didn't ask me to forgive first. She asked, "What do you want your life to feel like without their approval?" I made small rules that added up. I stopped reading Brooke's posts. I muted Mom on Facebook. I saved Dad's email as a PDF in a folder titled Receipts, because facts were my safety net now. And I told my program director, preemptively, "My family is upset with me and may contact you. Here are screenshots. I'm focused on work." She looked at the timestamps and said, "Thank you for being transparent," then moved on like it wasn't my shame to carry. After 30 days, I edited my original post to pin a final comment. "I'm stepping away and won't engage further." Then I stopped feeding the fire. At 60 days, I mailed my parents a short letter, paper, not texts. "I love you. I won't be manipulated. If you want contact, it needs accountability, not performance. No more triangulating relatives. No more calling me unstable. If you can't do that, we won't have a relationship." Tessa helped me seal the envelope. "Proud of you," she said, and this time I let myself believe it. I didn't get a new car right away. I took the bus. I walked. I built a life that didn't depend on their keys. Healing wasn't a dramatic montage. It was choosing myself in boring, repeatable ways. 90 days later, Mom sent a message that didn't sound like her. Mom's message came in at 7:03 p.m. on a random Tuesday. It wasn't long. "I'm sorry I missed your ceremony," she wrote. "I've been thinking. Can we talk?" No explanation. No mention of Riverside Loft. No, we chose Brooke. Just a door cracked open like nothing had happened. 3 months ago, I would have rushed through it, desperate to squeeze myself back into the version of our family Mom posted online. Now I reread the sentence and ask the question therapy taught me. What would it cost to answer? That weekend, I went to a small potluck at Tessa's house. Sam from the hospital came. Jenna came too. Someone brought cheap cupcakes with frosting that bled into the paper tray. Tessa hung a photo she'd taken of me after the ceremony, me standing under the awning in the rain, pin on my collar, eyes red but real. "Look," she said, pointing at it. "That's you showing up for you." We ate, laughed, and told stories that didn't require me to pretend my parents were heroes. For the first time, my big day didn't feel stolen, it felt reclaimed. What I learned the hard way was this. People who benefited from your silence called you dramatic the moment you spoke. They asked for privacy after they'd already poisoned the public version of you. And they offered you photos and dinners as substitutes for presence, because performance was easier than accountability. My stand wasn't revenge. It was boundaries with teeth. My practical takeaway, if you were in something like this, was save receipts early, keep your tone clean, and put boundaries in writing. Don't argue about your feelings with people who treated feelings like negotiable facts. Build at least one place, one person, where you didn't have to earn basic care. As for my parents, I didn't know if we'd ever be close. I knew I wouldn't go back to begging.